The Traveller's League Book 1 The Timepiece, written by Nick Goss. Burglars. Hoops ran into his room as quietly as he could and hid under the bed. His mum had talked about burglars before and he knew what to do, but he never thought he'd be this scared. He listened to the two men talking as they looked through the apartment. They made all kinds of noise as they opened drawers and turned things over. They were looking for anything valuable and nothing in particular. "What a dump," said the fat one. "You said this place would be perfect. Don't even think they have a TV." "Nah, but it looks like it's just a lady and a kid that lives here. She's too busy to ever be here, and there are tons of people like that in this building." The skinny one was the boss. He was obviously tougher and meaner. Hoops remembered that he was supposed to call the cops, but the cell phone was in the living room. "Look," the fat one said. "I've got a cell phone here. We can get a few bucks for that at least." "Shut up and look in the other rooms, chubby," the skinny one ordered. Hoops thought he might get caught. He knew that the fat man would mess up his room and most likely look under his bed. He needed to get out of here. He quietly slipped the timepiece out of his pocket again, wound it up and rubbed. He didn't even take time to think about resetting it. He just rubbed and quickly the timepiece did its job as always. Whoosh! The room was reversed again, and Hoops opened his eyes to see the fat face of the burglar peeking under the bed. He appeared to be looking right at Hoops, but couldn't see him. Hoops still froze. "The kid's got nothing. No computer, no video games, just books and this pet mouse," Chubby reported. He left the room and Hoops crawled out from under the bed. He walked into the living room where the burglars grumbled and complained, looking through all his mum's stuff. Hoops was scared, but he knew the burglars couldn't see or hear him. They were just the reflections of the 6:30 burglars, and he was hiding from them in the reflection world. He felt like a ghost. The skinny burglar was getting irritated. The more irritated he got, the scarier he seemed. He reminded Hoops of the Toxigator from the 1 o'clock jungle, an irritable, harsh, ugly, hateful beast. A beast who's just looking for the next meal and ready to kill anything that threatened his territory. "We're done here. Put that waffle down, you fat tub of lard." The fat one had decided to help himself to some of Hoops' leftover breakfast. "Let's go next door. I bet the old lady's got a bunch of jewellery." "Oh no, Miss Grankle." Suddenly Hoops wished he wasn't poor. He wished he had video games and a computer. He wished he had a TV. He wished he had anything the burglars wanted, so they wouldn't go to Miss Grankle's. As the burglars opened the front door, Hoops followed. His mind raced. He tried to think of something, anything he could do to scare them away. When they got to Miss Grankle's door, they didn't bother knocking. They just used a crowbar and pried the door open and slipped inside. Miss Grankle was doing what she always did in the mornings. She was sitting in her rocking chair by her gas fireplace, rocking and watching some dumb show where people yell at each other. When the burglars rushed in, she had a terrified look on her face. She tried to get up, but the skinny burglar was quick. He walked over, put his hands on her shoulder and forced her back into her chair. "Try that again, Granny, and I'll kill you." Hoops never felt hatred before. Fear, yes, anger, of course, but when they put their hands on little old Miss Grankle, he felt a burning, aching, raging hatred in his heart. He walked across the room and stood to the side of her fireplace while the crooks were busy looking around. Miss Grankle's fireplace was just like Hoops, and it also had a big mirror hanging over it. All the apartments in their buildings did. He waited for just a moment. Just as the fat one got close to the fireplace, Hoops turned his back to the room and jumped in front of the mirror. The fat burglar in the 6:30 saw Hoops in the mirror and yelped like a dog. "Oh, look, look!" As the skinny burglar came over to the mirror, Hoops made his meanest, maddest war face. He gritted his teeth and glared at the burglars with raging anger in his eyes. The skinny one stared at the mirror in disbelief. He was stunned but not terrified. The fat one peed his big fat pants. Hoops could smell it. Ghost," The fat burglar said to no one in particular, "I'm leaving, this ain't worth it." Just as he was leaving, the skinny burglar became more angry than scared. "You ain't going nowhere, chubby." He pulled out a gun and pointed it at his fat partner. "We're going to finish the job." Then he turned and looked at Miss Grankle. "Then we're going to get rid of this old lady." He turned and looked in the mirror right into Hoops' eyes, smiled and said, "Enjoy the show, kid." Hoops watched Chubby fill his little sack with Miss Grankle's jewellery, then waddle back into the living room. He was extra careful not to look in the mirror when he came back. He wasn't a fan of ghost children that lived in mirrors. The skinny one wasn't afraid, or at least he didn't act like it. He turned to the mirror and said, "You spooked the wrong guys, kid. Now Granny's going to join you in the afterlife." He pointed his big black revolver right at Miss Grankle's head. There was so much fear, hate and anger in Hoops' heart. Tears welled up in his eyes. Or maybe it was sorrow for getting sweet old Miss Grankle into this mess. He pulled out the watch and set it for 6:30. As the skinny burglar cocked the hammer of the revolver, Hoops furiously rubbed just as the swirls moved quickly around him. He reached out and grabbed the skinny burglar's reflection by the wrist. Whoosh! Hoops didn't open his eyes. He knew he had crossed back over into the 6:30 world, but he didn't want to watch the burglar dissolve into nothing. But he could hear Chubby screaming. The fat burglar saw his skinny partner's reflection appear right next to him, with the little boy holding his wrist. Then both the skinny burglar and his copy dissolved into nothingness from top to bottom in seconds. "Please don't hurt me," Chubby begged. "I'll do anything you want here. Take it all back." He tossed his little sack to Hoops' feet. All of Miss Grankle's jewels fell out, and Hoops' cell phone. Hoops picked up his phone and called the cops. When he was done, he told Chubby, "Your partner got what he deserved. Now you're going to jail, and when you get there, you can tell all your crook friends that the ghost of Worthington will be watching them from the mirrors and waiting to take them away when they try to hurt people." After the police took Chubby away, Hoops turned to Miss Grankle to try and explain. "I'm sorry, Miss Grankle. I know you're probably scared and don't know how all this is happening." "How long have you had the timepiece?" she interrupted. "You know about the timepiece?" Hoops was stunned. What does a little old lady know about adventure, or other worlds, or mirror dimensions? "Young man, us old folks know quite a lot more than you realise," she said, smiling. "My daughter was a traveller a long time ago. I didn't believe any of her stories about the adventures she had at the time. But then something terrible happened. She took a friend with her to another world, a boy. I caught them playing with the pocket watch just before they vanished. Moments later she returned, but the boy didn't." Miss Grankle looked very sad thinking about it. "It doesn't matter now. What does matter is that you're safe, and I'm safe too, because of your bravery. Worthington D. Hooper, you are my hero," she said with the sweetest smile he'd ever seen. "You'd better get home. I have a feeling your adventures are just getting started. There is still a lot of good work for you to do."